Hey folks, and welcome to this video on 5 top tips that you can use in pivot tables. These are 5 really useful tools that you can use within pivot tables, and I'm going to show you how to group data, in this case by quarters and by year, grouping text information and using multiple segments to break down your data, as you can see here, amongst a couple of other things as well. So let's dive in and take a look at how that's done. Okay, so back over at the data here, if we just click anywhere within the table and insert our pivot table here, we'll just pop this in a new sheet. Okay, so let's begin by starting with grouping by dates. So let's add into the rows the date column that we have in our main data set. So you can see here we have this date column here, and there's just a range of dates, and this could be thousands of rows in length, doesn't matter. Once we've got our dates in here, what we want to do is click on any one of these dates and then right click and then go down to create pivot date group. In here you can see there's a whole bunch of options. We're going to choose this quarter option here. Now at this point what we want to do is we want to put the quarters along the top, and the best way to set this up is to create it initially within the rows and then we'll move it manually into columns, and I'll show you why. So if we just pop this in here, and that's what we get along the top here. Now if I just undo that and we put that straight into the columns here, it will work because I don't have too many columns. There was only around about 30 or so. If you've got hundreds or thousands of rows of data in your spreadsheet, in your main data, it won't work like this. So the way you have to do it is to initially set it up as a row, do your grouping by the quarter in this case. You could do any of these, of course. And then once we've got that set, then we can just drag this and put that into our columns. Then we can add into the rows the year, like this. And of course you could set that to ascending or descending. And let's put some values in there, so we'll look at the profit. So you can see quickly, how the sales are changing. I mean, obviously this is only test data, but you can see how the sales might change through the quarters for each year that passes. And you can turn this grand total off if you wish. So that's the first top tip there. The second one is quite a straightforward one. Just simply, if you start at the beginning of the process and do the insert pivot table, you have to jump through a few more hoops there. But you can just click anywhere in this table and do a Control A or a Command A on a Mac to select everything, and then just copy it. Just a Control C or a Command C, and then we can come somewhere else in this sheet and paste that. So we can grab a copy of our original pivot table, and now we've clicked in this one, we can adjust this to how we want it to be. So let's just reset everything in this one. And let's have a look at grouping text now. So in the rows, I'm going to add the country. And you want to do this step before you add in any data at this point now. What we'll do is we'll just group these here as European countries. So if you just select the items you want to be grouped. Now obviously if it was this one and some other one in the list, you'd have to hold Control down or Command down on a Mac to select them like this, or you can just click and drag the ones you want. In this case I want these 3 here. Once they're selected, right click and create a pivot group. So that is grouping text like this, and you can see so these 3 are all grouped together. It's a little bit messy, so what we can do is we can rename this. So there's another top tip there for you. So we can call this Europe, and that changes this Europe total as well, which is quite nice. We can turn that off, of course, so that it's a little bit cleaner, and then we can add our values in to there as well. And of course you can rename any of these things. So this one's quite clean anyway, but this one here, we might want to change this to profit, for example. Okay, let's have a look at adding multiple values and rows into a pivot table. So we'll copy this one here. Let's move along over the top here. Okay, so we've got our new pivot table. Let's reset everything in here. And we'll start with the country again. So we have our countries. We're not going to group by country in this case, but what we will do is we'll add another row in here. We can segment these countries further. So let's add the segment in. The segment is, as you can see here, the development, enterprise, marketing, training, that type of thing. So now we can see for Canada, these are the 4 segments that relate to Canada. France only has 2, Germany has 3, and so on. And so now what we can do is we can, instead of adding columns, we can just add multiple values in here. So let's have a look at the number of units sold in each of these segments for Canada. You can see here, and so on. So you get the breakdown of the total for Canada as well, of course, and Germany. And then we can add another value in here. Let's put profit in there as well. So now you can see broken down for each country what the number of units sold were and how much profit came from that country. And of course, as before, we could rename these. And you can move these around as well. So in here, you could just drag this above and profits would come before units now. So you can move these things around, same with country and segment, but in this case, this makes more sense probably to do it like this. Okay, so the last tip I've got for you is with regards to the range. Now, if someone comes along and adds more data into this data set, this range won't update. So the best way to deal with that is if, for example, I come along and just add something else in here just to show you. You can see if I close this and just reopen it again, the range remains the same. It's going down to J31, but we actually have J32 in here. So the best thing to do is to come into here for any of your pivot tables and just drop the last two numbers so that it's an open-ended range. Now it's not strictly open-ended. If I hit enter here, you can see it just goes down to row 1000. And of course, you'd have to do the same for your other pivot tables that you've created as well. But the good thing is that now if any new data gets added in here, so if we look at the totals that we've got right now, we've got 1.323. If I add another one in here, you can see that's changed at the bottom there. But we do have these blank lines in here, which we can get rid of with a filter. So in the filter, we can add the units and we can just untick the blanks. Click OK, and that gets rid of those. You could have used profits as well, but essentially we're just not showing any blank rows in the data. There's 5 top tips you can use in your pivot tables. If you like that, guys, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. But that's all for today. Thanks for watching, folks.